Hey up, it's Farmer Phil here at Peahy Farms, and today it's part 5 of our wee mini-series, and today we're talking about why mobbing animals up, moving them so frequently and giving the pastures adequate recovery time is so beneficial to you, the consumer of this animal protein. And so if the old adage is true, you are what you eat, it really means we are what we eats. And unfortunately, animal protein has the potential to be the most toxic food we consume, not to mention the detrimental impact livestock can have on the landscape when not appropriately managed. And ultimately that toxicity can come from a number of different areas, but primarily it's from the medicinal crutches that are used in livestock production and from feeding livestock food that they were never designed to ingest. And as I've spoken about previously, because of this management strategy, we just don't need to use vaccines, treat illnesses with antibiotics, or run the animals regularly through yards to give them a routine drench. And all those things can impact the animals directly by putting chemicals in the body. And that then gets passed on through the food chain to us when we eat it. But also indirectly, those things damage the animal's gut microbiome and organ function. And so that can also add into an impact on the quality of meat, because these animals are just not able to take in the nutrients from the food sources they are eating, because their internal organs are just not acting the way they should. So by eliminating all these things, we've been able to increase animal health and vitality, which really comes across in the flavour, taste and nutrient profile of this animal protein. And so it's not all bad, because animal protein can be the most nutrient dense food you consume, packed full of essential amino acids, vitamins and minerals that are just not found at the same levels in other food sources. But this can only occur when the animals are chowing down regularly on fresh pasture that's full of a mixture of species. And not only that, it needs to be grown in a real healthy, not just living but thriving soil, exploding and teeming with life. And so really what we're talking about here is energetics. It's if we have that real positive, vibrant life and energy in the soil through the biology, the little microscopic microorganisms that are humming away, that make all the nutrients available to the pasture species that are growing, means that we have some really vigorous, healthy pastures that the animals then come along and chow down upon and take up all the nutrition that they could possibly need just from the pastures. And so when you consume that animal, you're then taking on that vitality and energy that really started from the ground up. So when we're talking about really nutrient dense food, there's been a number of recent studies that are really shedding a light on how these type of management strategies can really impact that nutritional profile of the food. And we're not just talking about it being 10 or 20% better than conventional farming. What it's been found is that it can be up to 4,000 to 5,000 times the vitamins and nutrients in that food source than under conventional management. So just a phenomenal difference. And so when it comes to value for money of the type of animal protein you can get from Peahy Farms, it far exceeds anything that can be touched by conventional management practices. And when you throw into the mix the low stress animal handling that we practice here at Peahy Farms, it really does add to that extra dimension to the quality of product. Because we're not running them through the yards regularly at all, the animals hardly ever have a chance of suffering any bruising, which when an animal's bruised, that permanently stays within the meat and affects the quality and therefore the tenderness of that part that's been impacted. And also, because everybody's just so relaxed, we don't have elevated levels of cortisol and adrenaline and the other hormones that can really have an impact on the flavour, taste and tenderness of an animal when it comes to be cooked and consumed. So I hope this has shown that all food is not created equal. And I can testify, I feel like I had a reasonably good diet before we started producing and eating our own meat here. We grew most of our own vegetables and our meat did come from what we felt was a pretty good source. But I can tell you my vitality, energy level and mental attitude have totally improved in the last couple of years since being able to eat our own protein. So it's just a phenomenal leap, and I wouldn't have necessarily believed it if I hadn't experienced it myself. So I hope this has given you a bit of an insight into why these simple management practices can be so beneficial to you, the consumer of this product. And we've not today touched on the environmental implications of all this either, which I feel, if you're a conscious carnivore, may also be really important to you. So tomorrow I'll be rounding out what I've spoken about over this past week, so hopefully you'll stay tuned for that. And don't forget to subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Feel free to share, add any comments or questions, we'll endeavour to answer. And you can also follow us on what we're up to daily on Instagram and Facebook. But for now, catch you later.